Time to finish the foam buildup for the characters. You can see I carved out a lot of room here in the neck, so I'm gonna build some more foam pieces in there to kind of let that. Remember, you got to make sure it stretches back. So sometimes you want to go back to the extreme and then crunch down to crunch the foam in. Same thing in the back here. Maybe I'd want to go down all the way before bringing it in and then crunch. So how you stuff the foam into the joints. I'm going to put a little bit more in here. I'm going to wrap some joints around the knee, around the ankle. That's getting bent a little funny. Yeah, no problem there. Is it a problem? Let's see. And yeah, I had some foam on the arm that came off. I'm actually going to add some of the stiffer and stronger EVA foam. I'm actually going to add some to the shoulders here too. I don't want his shoulders to the deltoids here. I don't want them to bend too much. I want this area in between the chest here that comes down and forward, and in between there and here, this area here, I don't want this to bend. I want this to bend at the joint, but I don't want it to bend like here, like this. Like right, that would be unrealistic, or that would be this should be how it bends forward, right, from the way the clavicle and the scapula, the shoulder blade work. I got some more work to do back here. See again, forward, he's going to go. He can go back some as well. So every time there's a catch in the foam, I cut a little strip loose, and then we're going to take the athletic wrap, and remember, we have the black and the super light fleshy color. Since he's a dark furred platypus, this is the kind of dark feltish, felt-like material I'm going to wrap for his skin. And so I think it would make more sense to do his final skin wrap with the black foam. And in order to do that, I'm going to do a little bit of the balloon latex on there. But the majority of this attaching is going to be done just with a little bit of the barge multi-purpose cement. Um, just don't use any stiff glue, right? So flexible, just flexible, stretchable fabric glue or barges. So it needs to be a rubbery, flexible, stretchy, permanent adhesive. I have some other glues, like I have this clear gel tacky glue. If I don't see the word flexible in there, probably not the best glue to use for any of your joints or skinning on the buildup parts. So let's go ahead and put some of these last pieces in here. Okay, I had to go get some more EVA foam. So another off-camera time travel. All right, so just a little piece here. I'm going to cut to glue together on each side of his shoulders just to bulk them up and give them some more strength. I might go a little wider than that. So just grab a scrap here or whatever you're working on and maybe go a little wider with it. Give him some kind of shoulders. And then fortunate enough, I got a little, just barely see through anymore. Yeah, you can see through it well enough. And that's, but you know, you can also, if you wanted to, just do it the other way. You could cut a form out of this, right? So I could just cut this out like that. There we go. And I can place it on top of this as well. And we talked about cutting in bevels. You can see this is all bevel cut. So I need four of these, right? I'm going to do one on each side, plus cut a little channel in at least one of the sides. Probably have it more in the back than in the front because that's the shoulder blade. Takes up a lot more room in the front than the pectoral muscle. So all these little anatomy things certainly add up over time. I got some room out here that I can still use to cut some of this as well. But I think at the top of this it could be a little straighter, so I'll cut this bevel right here going out one side and out on the other. And you want to try and keep the angle of your bevel roughly equal. And the top of this though, I cut the bevel, but I'm going to cut half of it off. So it's going to kind of taper off. So all these little chiseled cuts are super helpful in getting some basic designs down. So once I get one chunk done, I want the front and back to be equal. Again, don't want any sharp corners either. So maybe bevel cut there, maybe bevel cut there. There we go. And then at the bottom, it doesn't really matter. That's all going to get covered up. Okay, so come over here. You can see where I have another piece lined up here. So I'm going to maybe trim the top of this bevel off like I've already done, just to make sure my measurements are pretty close. There we go. And then, yeah, I know it's going to go right to here to there. So I want to flip it upside down actually. There we go. And that way I know my bevel cuts are in the right direction. Easy to forget. And then you end up with uneven bevel cuts. So there we go. That should be relatively even, not bad. Let's probably diagram this out. I'd probably draw this out if I had a model sheet, if I only had a model sheet. Yeah, see the one bevel's going the wrong direction on that side. That was my error. There we go. So sandwich them together. Close, but not quite even. I don't know how fast and sloppy I want these pieces to be. I'm kind of debating. But I want to get it done. I can always carve them and sand them. But again, if I slow down just a little bit and make good bevel cuts here, I will save time in having to Dremel and sand, you know, and sand and shape these pieces too much. So I'm kind of hedging my bet here. So those two pieces are relatively equal. I do have a white gel pen here that I use for my um, foam core and leather working. So EVA foam. So let's see if this is going to go facing me. So I'm going to write the gel pen. There it goes. Yeah, gel pen's great. Awesome. And I already have a bevel in the back, so I'm going to trim that bevel off the right direction this time. I'll come in 45, 45, 45, 45, and 45. Okay, those look pretty darn good. All right. So yeah, a little white gel pen on the black EVA helps. And if your eyesight's good, you could just use whatever marker you have laying around, right, to get these lined up correctly. Let's see if I got these two lined up correctly. Okay, and once again, I'm going to trim the end of that bevel off a little. Bring it next to it, and there we go. And one side sticks out a bit more than the other. So maybe you'll do a handedness on this, a left and a right. You see it kind of protrudes out ever so slightly. Or I could carve them up to be a little more equal. That should be all right though. I'll take this piece and sandwich them in there, see how that's looking. That's looking okay. Is that what my intention was for the bending and the rotation of this thing? It's looking like it'll cover up a little bit of where the joint actually moves in here. So I think in order to make that a little bit more accurate, I'm going to trim it back a little bit more. I don't want it coming out that far for both these pieces here. Cut that off, and if the corner's still there on this one, make sure I didn't miss it, and cut that one off too. So this is now going to be a much sharper shorter, excuse me, not much, but it'll be shorter. And there we go. Yeah, it's gonna need to line up a little bit better where this round, where the rotations, I want the rotation to happen. That's where I want it to happen right there. So we do this with digital too. When we are setting up the rig and the bones, we'll actually create extra bones to make the movements of the clavicle and scapula hold their shape and their form, along with corrective blend shapes, right? Where you actually pose and sculpt the model to that better deformation. So there we go. That should work okay there. That should work okay right there. That's better. All right, so he's got like little shoulders. Yeah. All right, and now we just want to carve out a little channel for our wire. Right, so I'm going to be careful of my depth on this. I don't want to cut all the way through, so I'm going to kind of hold my finger next to it and carve through, come around the other side, make sure it is creating a little V cut. And if it takes a couple cuts, it's better to take your time on this part and be a little slower and deliberate and not cut through. If you cut through all the way, it's going to just really hamper the strength of the foam. There we go. So that's just going to fit really nice now in there. And this piece goes over the top of that one. So that. So if we are going to match them up, I'm going to take a little bit out of this one too. Maybe not as much. We talked about, well, if I wanted to protrude more in the back, I should have made the back one have a heavier protrusion. So let's flip this over. So the one that has a deeper channel, well, I already did it, so it's not going to be that noticeable. We'll just build up. We want to make sure we build up more. The point is in the shoulders, you want to build up more in the back of the shoulder than in the front where the pectoral is, because there's a huge difference there with the latimus and the scapula and everything comes in there. So, okay, so scratch that idea. So front and back, and then we go front on the other side, and see if this one is angled a little better. Watch, man, these little cheapy ones, the blade likes to slide right off, doesn't it? It's kind of scary. I want it to be a little bit more of an angle this way. Whew, slice myself wide open. Okay, same thing on the channel, so a little deeper. And these foam, man, this foam is so lightweight, but it is so strong. So it's really cool stuff. That's why it's not cheap. You get a big roll, about 50, 60 bucks. So you gotta fork out some dough to get a nice big roll of it. But once you get that roll, it really frees you up design wise. You can do so much with it. So yeah, it carves nice, it cuts nice. You know, they've really evolved. The Foamery is one of the companies that does it. So okay, so I'm gonna lay these out. Make sure I got the upper. This is gonna be the back. These ones are gonna be the front, back and front. Okay, we're good. And then I'm gonna put a little bit of the adhesive on the wire itself to make sure it holds steady. Okay, so let's do that. I'm almost out of this tube. So I found this stuff is really, really strong. So it maybe didn't need to put quite as much on in my earlier videos for sure. I should say, not maybe. So just enough to cover the surface. Don't leave any pools. Ah, there we go. Ah, it's a stringy, good old barges, man. Yeah, even the little strings are strong, like spider webs, right? Sticking the stick down in there at this point. Finish off that tube. There we go. Dip it down in there. Finish off the other two, put it on the wire, grab the air dryer and heat them up a little. Oops, make sure I'm on camera. Getting on my fingers. Oh no, Barge is on the fingers. Yeah, it comes off easy. It's just having it stick to you when you don't want it to. That's the trick with this stuff. Like, be mindful when you gotta wipe some of it off. Yeah, there it goes, right? See, it's gonna just grab on whenever possible. Okay, so on the actual wires, so let me get it around all the sides. There we go, and then okay, making sure I get decent coverage all around. There we go. It's not really get down into the coils of the spiral and the twist there, but you can see that it keeps bending, it keeps bowing in a way that I don't want. So hopefully this locks it up for us and prevents that from happening anymore. All right, so let's give that a shot with the air dryer and make sure I cap this stuff as I go. Maybe crunch down the ends of this tube. There we go. Okay, look at that. But got an air dryer handy. Gonna blow away from all of the stuff on the table. Blow away. Over. And then we put it on low. And yeah, these are getting blow up so fast. So put them in the time. Now I forget which one's which. I know the deeper channel one I did for the back, so whichever I did do a direction for them. So the little shiny white little pools of it, there should be no more. Yeah, they're really dummy. Just so the airs burns your fingers like you would with a hot food, with a hot heat gun, an actual heat gun, especially not burning up the fingers. Air dryer's fine. Just trying to do well. Contact, two-sided, double-sided cement, right? So let's see which one's the thicker. That one's got the deeper channel, and the wedge goes that way. That's the deeper channel. Wedge goes that way. And that's the front. That one. And that's going to be the front on this one. All right, so let's do the back first. So come over here and get a nice press. Do the back first. Stick into my fingers. And then where the channel's at, I'm gonna start at one edge and kind of very carefully, once it grabs, it ain't letting go, and press across and pinch sandwich. And now I have this great shoulder piece to grab onto. Squish, 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 sandwich that together. Get the back shoulder. There we go. Okay. One side, get the other, and press, press, press. So he has these great little shoulders. They can kind of move forward and backward and up and down without the arm shoulder socket doing too much. Now, I didn't put the stuff that I wanted to on his upper and lower arm, so he's going to have a little bit more noodly arms. And I just kind of made peace with that I want to add those on, I can just rip this off and I can see just how hard it is to get this stuff off. It does not want to come off, but anything you don't like, you are free to change. Absolutely. Like, don't feel like you can't just rip some of the foam off and put it back on. Because we have the styrofoam, this stuff, we have this, and this is super cheap to get the wrap to bulk it back up again. So don't battle too much, although you know want to avoid. But this was a legit mistake during the making of the video. I was like, oh, I'll just go for it, make these noodly arms, and then afterwards I was like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Quite frankly. There we go. It's gonna work pretty good. All right, so let's make upper and lower arms for him so we know where his elbows will be. So I'm gonna do a little bend at the elbow, out, a little bend at the elbow, out and forward and forward. So you see from the side view, and then I can bring his shoulder back a little if I wanted to. There we go. So you're trying to get a relaxed, natural pose with your character. Extremely rigid stuff works well. If that's what your intention is, but a lot of times that should not be your intention to do that. So I'm not going to do a form. I'm just going to cut using this piece here. So we'll do this one and bevel back on that one as well. Maybe bevel forward on that one there. That looks good enough. Okay, take that little scrappy piece. There we go. Right here. And I'll cut around, just kind of tracing it with the same inverse bevel, right? There we go. Let's see how this one comes out. Pretty good. They are equal. And then cut where that bevel starts here. This is a kind of a deeper bevel, so I'll start it off like that, and I can come around the other side here, compare them side by side, and then if I want to continue trimming that down a little, and make those two sides a little more even. There we go. So lower arm, upper arm, right? And I'm going to cut. I'm going to cut them in half. I'm going to cut a little chunk for the elbow and wrist to exist as well. So these are actually a little big than what is necessary, but that's all right. So we'll do another one here. Okay, so I'm going to match this side. There we go. And come around. Other side. That one off. And same thing, just from the front. I want to get that shaving to match the two sides. If I trimmed a little too much, just trim them both. That's okay. Definitely, I don't need this to be super thin. It's not going to help much when it comes to the EVA foam. We'll see. So two sides, that one's a little thicker, so these two are thinner. Just kind of evening them up a little as I go. Voila. A little carving action helped. Okay, that's one half, and do the other half. I really hope most of you try this foam, because we're going to do this with Halloween masks for our little not so surprising in class Halloween activity. And I'd love to see more of you get into cosplay because why not? Crazy fun. There we go. So that's going to be pretty even on those two sides. See how the tips are down to there. Okay. And shave a little bit off as it comes down the forearm. All right. So before I cut the channels in these, check these two sides again. Okay, so there's the two arms going like that. And need plenty of room for the elbows for each of these. So for that, I'm not going to do a bevel. All right, so for that, we want to cut out where the elbow is going to be. So I'm just going to cut a nice chunk out there and a nice chunk out there. Okay. And I could have done these individually, right? I could have done the upper, lower arm separate to begin with, but I like having that kind of piece, that curve done together. I find that to be a little more helpful. So we kind of know where this is going to go on the lower arm. There we go, and the upper arm right there. And it looks like it's still taking up too much room down at the wrist, so we trim that away to make sure there's plenty of room to bend. There we go. So there's our upper and lower arms. Let's do the same thing with the other one. So it's easiest just to match them up nice. So we go here and I'm just gonna do one cut, saw cut all the way through. A little shorter, dang. I wanted, and come to the lower arm and grab that and just cut that extra wrist. Little blocks. All this little pieces can go bye-bye. I mean, I try and recycle, upcycle everything I can, but all right, cool. Upper, lower, upper, lower. All right, let's go ahead and cut some channels in there and let's glue them on. Okay, so I did the same pieces of cutting the V-groove and putting on the adhesive. They're all necessary sides, so make sure the forearm is curving in the right direction. I put the adhesive also back down here and press one time. There we go. Make sure the lower forearm piece is curving in the correct direction. There we go. Just below the elbow, just above the wrist. And then the other side over. And give those a good squeezy squeezy. Now remember, this is in lieu of using the um, Magic Sculpt, right? So you could just use the Magic Sculpt for these if you want to. It looks like I got one piece backward, darn it. Yeah, it was this piece. It should have been going the other way. So tearing this off, you may as well, you have to redo all the adhesives. So I'm just gonna let it go and just carve it, shape it however I need it. It's fine. So I just want you to know how to do this stuff. So um, definitely all the directionality and what's that extra stuff I'm doing on there is for academic usage purposes. And then I carve and shave this down as needed. And I hope you all feel comfortable doing the same. There we go. So I want to pinch the sides because I didn't make the channel as deep as maybe as it needed to be for the coils of armature wire for the armature wire twist that's on there. There we go. That's pretty cool though. And you can see in there, and if I Got my little kind of curved cuticle scissors. You can go in here and start just cutting down any weird, like that now has a weird curve to it, especially down here at the wrist. Should be curving the other direction. So use the scissors first. You could use a razor blade. You can use the Dremel, right? Of course. So yeah, so this is where it was going to go thinner down by the wrist is now thicker. It's still good over here, although a little maybe thicker than even than I'd want it to be. So there we go. Pretty cool. All right. Let's grab my little sanding Dremel here and can remember go with the rotation and it's a little safer. And just make sure that down here by the wrist is indeed thinner. You see that sands really nicely. It just makes that little powdery cloud of a mess. And of course, I'm trying to be careful and not hit the armature wire. Maybe a little score and mark on the armature wire weakens it, right? And you see my sanding wheel's not as um, tight as I wish it was. It's kind of sliding around on me. There we go. There we go. And getting rid of all these sharp edges with the sanding wheel. All right, so go ahead and turn that off and get a little vacuum cleanup here. Sure. Not going to get any of this mixed up in our latex or in our paint. Right, so I have a pneumatic tool too. I know we don't have a pneumatic system at the school to blow stuff off. Wish we did. Right. Let's go ahead and finish up the wraps on this guy. There we go. We know how the shoulder, upper arm, forearm system is going to rotate really nicely at those joints, and he's going to maintain his lightweight ability as opposed to our Monster Sculpt character, which I'm sorry, Magic Sculpt, not Monster Sculpt, which is way more heavy. That's heavier. Like this little guy feels twice as heavy as this guy because I'm using the EVA foam instead of the Magic Sculpt on the joints to keep it solid. So, yeah. All right. Cool. See you in the next one.